our the current sprint, what we've done is implemented a fixed term contract. What that effectively means is from a requirement perspective and in turn an offer and a placement, there's this extra job type of a fixed term contract being added here. So what we have are in terms of options against the requirement and placement is contract, which is obviously the means of entering a start date. There being established duration, and obviously the end date is calculated in association with that, and that's associated with timesheets, charges, and whatnot from there. You then have permanence, which is obviously where you have an established start date, no end date, and essentially an established minimum or maximum salary. You have rolling contract, where obviously you have the start date of the contract, you have an established duration, but then there is a renewal period in relation to the contract. There's a review period in relation to that contract, and obviously extensions proceed from there. And then you have now fixed term contract, which is the concept of a start date and there being established duration to that contract, but it basically being a salary based placement. So now we have those options within there, or that option within there. Effectively, all other requirement workflow still stands in terms of from a candidate record. If we go through the process of long listing a candidate and then we place an offer, I'll give that candidate a salary and then we'll place an offer there. What you can see from the offer form side of things is that it effectively brings through the start date, it calculates the end date, same as a contract. And obviously gives us a finishing period there. We'll calculate our placement fee. And I'll just untick those ones, and then we'll create our offer. So from the placement perspective, if we accept this offer, the workflow from a placement side is as per a permanent placement, albeit factoring in some contract workflow as well, because obviously there's the need to extend a fixed term contract if it requires. Obviously we have an option of a finish date reminder, so we'll say yes to that quickly. That gets that in our diary. But ultimately, in terms of the placement layout, it's placed. It's on the basis of obviously a salary, the placement fee, and those details all still stand. The option of an invoice schedule is in there if you have a payment plan in relation to how this contract is playing out. And then you have the means to amend, extend, and early finish, obviously in the same remit and format as if it were a contract for the purposes of possible extensions. Now, from a back office perspective, it's effectively very similar to a placement in that you have obviously the back office tab filled with the invoicing details that are available there, and ultimately you have the same authorization process that you will follow. Obviously the invoice schedule is there as well if you have a payment plan or an invoicing plan in relation to the invoicing for the contract. But ultimately, first level authorization, all of the fields are locked down as you would expect, apart from the fields within the back office tab. And then if we take it to the point of being second level authorized, then it will effectively release this placement to the back office area ready for an invoice to be generated. So with the placement now at second level authorization, we'll go over to the back office area and generate invoices. And what you'll note is that there is now a fixed term contract type within the list of available types there. And obviously we can see our fixed term contract has now come through there. If I tick that and we generate the invoice, and I'll select an established nominal there, hit OK, that generates our invoice document, or invoice record should I say, and then takes us through into list invoices. And then within list invoices, obviously we have our invoice. If we take a look at the edit invoice option just to see the actual invoice of a fixed term contract, you obviously see the line details that will advise the introduction and obviously the start date and end date of that established placement. So if I go back to list invoices and then we create an invoice there. If we just take a look at that invoice document. And obviously here's our sales invoice document in relation to that fixed term contract. So fixed term contract has been introduced along with invoice schedule as part of the IR35 legislation, and ultimately to give you extra options that are being utilised to accommodate that legislation ultimately. But that's fixed term contract, and if you have any queries, please let me know. Thanks a lot. Take care.